Good evening and welcome to lesson 3. I just want to use this to kind of cover some of the key points for the lesson and just kind of use an illustrative example that I think might help out with some of your points. So if you haven't read the lesson, read it first, then watch this YouTube video. But this should clarify some of the points in the lesson. So I want to start off with kind of a hypothesis, and I want to run this drill so that you understand how a hypothesis works, how inductive-deductive reasoning works, how independent variables work to a real-world situation. So, everyone sees what's going on in Egypt and the Middle East. There's been a revolution, and one of the hypotheses is that the unemployment rate here is above 30%. Equals a revolution. So your hypothesis is that under the conditions of unemployment at 30%, you have a revolution. And that's a hypothesis. And that is actually a pretty decent hypothesis. It's not as specific as you might want, but it solves some of the issues, or it covers some of the issues of a hypothesis. One, it is repeatable. You can take this, and I again apologize for my 4-year-old handwriting, but it is repeatable. You can take this circumstance, unemployment rate of 30%, and you can see if that applies to not only other countries or other revolutions. So in the Russian Revolution, was there an unemployment rate of 30%? Was there an unemployment rate of 30% in the Iranian Revolution? You can actually take that example and put it in other case studies. Is it precise? It is. It is precise. It is it is an effective measure. An imprecise statement would be something like, anger of the people causes revolution. That's not a very precise statement because it's very hard to quantify that. So then the third thing, is it falsible? Can you prove it false? Yes, you can. You can prove it in two ways. You can look at other revolutions, French Revolution, Iranian Revolution, and you could see if that unemployment rate was 30%. You can also look at places where there is an unemployment rate, and does that cause revolution? So, it can work in both manners here to determine if this is actually a false statement. And then the fourth thing is parsimony. I think, it's a very simple statement. Well, in some cases it's too simple, but it is parsimonious. It's understandable to the reader. Okay, so this all, it makes a hypothesis, or it makes a good hypothesis if it's one of those things. And the one thing I ask in your papers is that you look at all those 4 factors. Okay, so I erase that there. Then we talk about inductive and deductive logic. So inductive and deductive. And again, bad handwriting. An inductive would look at this point, or I'm sorry, a deductive logic, you would look at the revolution point first. You would look at, okay, so we have a revolution, and let's track back. So you have your revolution, and you look, okay, what were the factors that caused it? 30% unemployment. Okay, and then you can look at other factors. There was an autocracy, because you don't have revolutions in democracy, although you do sometimes, but autocracy is something that was a factor. Technology. And I bring this up because, and I'll talk about this more in a second, but there's certain factors, not just the unemployment rate of 30%, but other things that can cause a revolution. You have 30% unemployment in a lot of places, but usually you need a technology medium. Like in the Arab Revolution, it was Facebook and Twitter. In the Iranian Revolution, it was the audio cassette. I don't know if everyone remembers that, but those are audio cassettes that you can spread out and you could copy and dub, and you could proliferate it pretty easily. In the Protestant Reformation, again, going back there, you had the printing press. And then in other revolutions, in the Russian Revolution, you had the widespread radio, use of radio to spread messages. But there's always some sort of technology that allows these things to interplay and results in a revolution. So for deductive reasoning, again, you're looking at revolution. A revolution happens, and then you look back at the causes of that revolution. For inductive reasoning, you look at this, or you look at the factors, and unemployment rate being 30%, and then you determine, so the factors come first, and then you determine there will be a revolution. And inductive tend to be more predictive, used in the intelligence community. Usually, the intelligence community, they want to know a kind of a predictive analysis, and that you look, hey, there's an unemployment rate of 30%, or there's widespread technology use that wasn't there, or there's an autocracy, and when you have these, you're going to have a revolution in the future. So that kind of covers inductive and deductive logic. Again, inductive tends to be more forward-looking, predictive. Deductive tends to be looking back. The last thing I just want to cover is independent variables and dependent variables. Or independent, dependent variables. So the best way to look at it is the independent variable is what moves, is what you can change and you can switch out. The dependent variable is what's constant. So in this case, the revolution is the constant. That's the dependent variable in that case. The independent variable is this, the unemployment rate of 30%. This, in order to test this hypothesis, you would look at other cases where you switch this out. So you have a revolution, and then you could say, was there an unemployment rate of 30%? Was that the cause, or was it one of those factors that we said, an autocracy, a technology movement? So in this case, the dependent variable is revolution, independent is unemployment rate, and you could switch these out. You can alter this, and in some cases, the revolution could be the independent variable, and or the revolution can be the independent variable. But in this case, we're going to keep it as a dependent variable. So that's the important part. The next is there's different variables discussed there, but the most important one is the intervening variables, and these are, in addition to the unemployment rate of 30% equaling revolution, what are the other factors? So you say, unemployment rate of 30% plus a youth bulge, and that was one of the factors that led to the Arab Spring, is that you had a higher concentration of men, and they born 25 years ago, and that led to pressures on the employment rate, pressures on the economy that the Mubarak government couldn't solve. So you had 30% unemployment rate, youth bulge, you had an autocracy, and you had a technology, again in this case being the widespread Facebook and Twitter, and that led to revolution. So the independent variable again here is the unemployment rate, and then the intervening variables here and here and here were what led to the revolution. Now, how you test this is you would look at other cases and look at cases where there might have been a youth bulge, an autocracy, and a widespread new technology, yet no revolution. And then you would also look at other things and say, hey, you might have had a 30% unemployment rate, and no revolution unless you had these three things. The key here is to figure out, again, part of your paper is what is the decisive variable. Is this the decisive variable? Is this? Is this? And you would use your case studies, your tests, to determine where was the change? Where was it? What was the cause of the actual revolution? Because you might have had this, this, and no revolution. You might have had this and no revolution. You might have had this and this, but not this, and a revolution happened. So the key of this study is to show how the variables in your play to actually cause your dependent variable to change. So I hope that's kind of clear as mud. If there is a problem, please let me know. And I look forward to the discussion boards and the rest of the program.